everybody, and welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to be shooting a conversation with Rajesh Chitnis, who is currently training in international public law at City University of London. And we're going to be having a conversation that starts with philosophy, animism, goes to subjectivity, and eventually to intellectual property and protecting it.
Hi, Upasana, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, all well. Um, so what's up?
So yeah, are we ready to do this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. So there are a few things that I have observed about living organisms. One is homeostasis, and the second is survival.
Hmm.
And the third thing that I have noticed is that we tend to delve into philosophy, into stories that that are make believe and that help us cope with our lives, right? And when I actually read deeper into that, there was this concept known as animism, right? And animism is basically something that leads us to a psychological and rather virtual control of the things around us, which in turn reflects our perspective towards life. And this is basically the subjectivity that I'm talking about. Now, our subjectivity is what makes us. Do you agree or do you not? Or do
Yeah,
you think
definitely.
there are other things to it?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess our subjectivity is what makes us in the sense that, like the fact if everyone was just as objective as the next person, then it would be very hard to have, then human beings would not be as unique as they are today, right?
Right,
Today,
exactly.
everyone's opinions are subjective. Everyone's opinions are like my opinions are different from yours and from somebody else's, and that's
Yeah,
what makes us
definitely,
human, right?
definitely. So, so we are basically saying that we are not applying ceteris paribus, right?
Okay, then that everything around you applies to you, and now everything changes basically.
Yeah,
Okay, fair
yeah,
enough. Yeah, I agree.
yeah. So that's basically the Latin for other things remaining equal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this thing that I just came up with was basically a little oversimplified yet complicated, and that's why I love irony. It's like my favorite form of whatever thought or writing or anything.
Expression.
So basically, the conclusion that we came to is that our subjectivity is what makes us. And in a world full of opinions, Rajas, how do we protect ours? How do we say that it's unique and glorify its worth?
Uh, how do we protect our own opinions,
Yeah.
right? Okay, well, it's a slightly different answer to what you might expect, but in my opinion, the best way to protect your own opinion is to respect other people's opinions, right? Because because if I respect your opinion and you respect my opinion, then my opinion is protected and your opinion is protected, and anyone else who has an opinion to express, it's protected too, right? And so I think the best way to protect your opinion is not to kind of go and thrust it upon people, right? And try to convince them that yours is the only opinion that matters or the only good opinion.
But ultimately, you do end up convincing people, right? How do we protect that thought? How do ideas
And
retain or basically claim originality?
well, they claim originality. Well, if it's a good idea and you're good at convincing people, right, then your idea will retain its originality and it'll propagate through people. But the more importantly, I think if you have, like, if you respect, you have to realize that people, that just as much as you want to convince people, other people out there also have good points, right?
True.
And so if just everyone is just a little bit less steadfast and less polarized in their opinions, then maybe we'll have a more understanding world and where more ideas will endure, right? Because if I don't stick so heavily to my idea, I might listen to your idea and realize that, hey, this is actually true, this is right. And then next time I talk to somebody about that concept or that thing, I might say that, you know what, somebody told me this interesting thing I never thought about. That's true. It's this, right? And I might say that, look, and that way your idea is now bigger than you are.
Right. Okay, that completely makes sense. But I would little want you to throw light upon the professional aspect of this. When you know in the real world where people get stuck up on how to prove how original their ideas are and how theirs the ideas were, how do people actually go about with that?
Well, this is the world of intellectual property, right? So like this is what we lawyers make our money on. And it's the idea that like your idea is yours, but at the same time, people have a misconception about intellectual property.
Right.
Intellectual property is not about it's not about just keep holding on to your idea. It's about making sure that the work you've done and the effort you've put in, right, is adequately compensated, right? So if somebody were to pick up your idea, right, and you just kind of use it for like non-profit work, or kind of just kind of like internalize that idea, that's fine. But if somebody were to take your work without paying you and were to then go and sell it, right, or to then go and make money out of it, then you deserve a payment, right? Just as when a carpenter makes a table and he sells it, somebody pays him for the table and then uses the table to keep books on it. But if somebody just came to the shop, picked up the table, took it home, put books on it, that's unfair to the carpenter, right? And the world of intellectual property is very much the same, right? When you have an idea, when you're an artist who makes a painting or sings a song or something like that, you're making the table, you're the carpenter, right? When I take that idea and use it to make money, like if I put it on top of my advertisement for a car, if it's a song, I'm the guy putting books on that table, right? But it's only fair that I pay you for your work so that when I'm making money out of my work, it's fine. You've already you've been adequately compensated for your work. But it's not to say that your idea is like it's your idea and it belongs to you. The monetary value of it belongs to you. But sometimes ideas are bigger than people, right? And IP allows for this. Like if you write a book, the I don't remember the exact numbers, but I'm not like 100% sure about the numbers, but I'm pretty sure they're about the same. If you write a book, your copyright to that book only lasts 70 years after you die,
Yeah.
right? Because after 70 years, the assumption is that the author has been adequately compensated, the author's children, estate, whatever, has been adequately compensated, and that the idea has become bigger than them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Sherlock Holmes is
Yeah.
an idea that's bigger today than Sir Arthur Conan Doyle,
Yeah.
right? But Sherlock Holmes had for 70 years it belonged to him, to his estate, right? In the same way, if you file patents for like medicines, right? They're only valid for 20 years because the assumption is that after 20 years, you've recuperated your costs for the work you've put into that idea, that medicine, and after 20 years, that idea belongs to society, right? For the betterment of society. And so, like, that's how intellectual. So, yeah, it's your idea, but the idea of intellectual property is to make sure that you're adequately compensated for your work in the same way that a carpenter is compensated for his table, not to make sure that you clutch onto your idea for eternity.
Right. I think that's a really fun perspective to the whole idea thing because in the end, the fact that you have ideas or they come to you, it's that aha moment that you have in your life that is actually making not only yours but everybody else's around you's life better. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
think that,
definitely.
and recently I was reading about Jeff Bezos, and he wrote an article on Amazon.us about his life journey. And I mean, this entire uh, race about intellectual property, he just summed it down to one thing, that if the idea is meant for people, it will retain its originality.
Exactly. Yeah. And the good thing about an idea retaining its originality, is that an idea evolves,
Right.
right? When you have an idea and you tell it to me, that I might add something to that idea. Hopefully, I won't subtract from that idea, but that happens too, right? And by the time that idea reaches somebody else, like a game of Chinese whispers, that idea evolves, it changes, it gains a life of its own in that sense to be a little poetic, right? And basically, but that's the beauty of ideas, right? They evolve, they change, they adapt, right? And I'm sure when Jeff Bezos started out, maybe he didn't envision Amazon was started as a book selling website,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
right?
That's true.
I don't think in his wildest dreams he saw that it would like like in 20 years time in India you would be able to use it to pay your grocer for money, like with money, that you would be able to watch movies on it, or that you'd be able to use it to like talk to somebody in your house, a digital assistant. And it's the same with every other great idea, right? So
Definitely.
like ideas evolve.
Yeah, ideas a lot. So it's been an amazing chat with you, Rajas. Is there anything else you would want to leave us with?
No, I think that's good. Like, I'm glad you're doing this. I'm glad you had me on board. Glad you invited me.
Glad to
So
have.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.